Two people on motorcycles are racing and performing dangerous stunts. However, one rider loses focus and crashes into a massive sand dune. His bike is badly damaged. He tries to restart it, but fails and calls his teammate for help. While stuck in the middle of the dunes, he feels a violent tremor. Suddenly, creature attacks him from underground. Not long after, the team realizes their friend is missing and goes looking. They only find his flag on the motorcycle. Then a gigantic creature bursts through the sand and charges toward him, forcing Tim to flee. He speeds off at full throttle, but loses control. While jumping over a sand mound, he nearly gets caught by a giant shark. Leaping out of the sand, it almost devours Tim as he struggles to escape. But the creature leaps again, bites his leg and drags him across the sand. At a nearby police station, a young man named Jimmy is on his way to see his father. He runs into his old friend, the sheriff, who is clearly unhappy to see him because of the tragedy Jimmy caused in the past. After that encounter, Jimmy goes to talk to his father. Although he is not welcomed, his father still makes a proposal that could bring profit to the island. While they are talking, the sheriff receives a call, reporting a murder on the beach. He immediately heads to the scene, along with his sister, also a police officer. When they arrive, they only find Tim's head and strange marks in the sand. John believes a murderer is hiding on the island, but Brenda suspects something far worse, because the victim's body was dragged across the sand, and the wounds look like bite marks. The beach is also known for sharks, so Brenda suggests consulting an expert to see if a sea creature is responsible. However, her brother refuses and orders the investigation to continue. He also tells Brenda that her ex-boyfriend has returned. Meanwhile, Jimmy presents his plan to his father to host an event on the island. His idea is to create an annual festival to attract tourists. The mayor agrees and provides funding and a beachfront venue, giving Jimmy full control of the festival. Meanwhile, Brenda calls the Marine Lab, and despite objections, her brother asks Dr. Ruth to investigate the beach death. She agrees, and they head to the scene. But before they arrive, a couple playing near the shore meet disaster. The young man buries himself in the sand and asks his girlfriend to pull him out. When she gets distracted, she is dragged underground by a giant sand shark. Witnessing this, the boyfriend struggles free to save her, but remains trapped and is eventually devoured by the monster as well. Hours later, the sheriff stares out at the sea, fearing Brenda's shark theory may be right. Brenda comes to discuss the investigation, but they are interrupted by a young woman screaming, apparently being hunted by something. They rush to help but discover the shark is just her boyfriend. She is wearing a hat shaped like a fin. Just then, Jimmy arrives at the beach to begin preparations for the festival. There, Jimmy meets the sheriff and Brenda again. Jimmy says he is only here for work and wants the festival to bring profit to the island. However, the sheriff objects because the last beach party, organized by Jimmy, led to the deaths of 15 people, including John's wife and child. As they argue, a young surfer and his girlfriend arrive at the beach to surf. As soon as he enters the water, he is attacked and swallowed by the sand shark. Within seconds, his girlfriend witnesses everything and runs to report it. At first, no one believes her, but her claim is quickly proven when she is also devoured in front of everyone. Panic spreads across the island, forcing residents to hold an emergency meeting at City Hall to address the situation. During the meeting, John and Brenda propose closing the beach for 24 hours to stop the creature. However, a resident named Angus says he will hunt the shark and bring back its head, as long as the town council pays him a $10,000 reward. The mayor does not take the old man seriously, but still agrees to reward anyone who captures the monster. After that, two locals, tempted by the reward, take a boat along the shore. It does not take long before the creature's fin appears above the water. With its strength, it overturns the small boat, throwing both men into the sea. In shallow water, they try to pull the boat ashore, but the shark leaps out and devours them. The next morning, Brenda and Dr. Powers investigate the scene, finding only the boat and a severed arm. At that moment, Jimmy and his crew arrive to prepare the festival, even though the sand shark is still at large. Angered by this, Brenda approaches and announces that the festival will not be allowed until the 24-hour ban has ended. Nevertheless, Jimmy orders Aaron to keep promoting the festival, while he handles the rest. A few hours later, Dr. Powers takes samples back to the lab, and the sheriff arrives to ask more questions. She says she found a tooth from the shark, but analysis shows it belongs to no known species. The tooth is identical to one her father once brought back. According to her research, it belongs to a prehistoric shark species. The conversation is interrupted when John receives a call from Brenda saying they have located the sand shark. The sheriff and the doctor rush to the scene. They see Jimmy congratulating a fisherman for catching a massive great white shark. Jimmy announces to the crowd that this is the monster and the danger is over, so the festival can continue. Knowing Jimmy well, John asks Sandy to examine the shark carefully. As feared, The doctor says that while it is a real shark, it is not the one they are hunting. Its teeth are smaller, and it has been dead for weeks. Hearing this, the sheriff decides to keep the beach closed, forcing Jimmy to retreat and rethink his plan. When night falls, Willie continues promoting the festival under Jimmy's orders, until the sand shark emerges on the beach and bites through a power cable, cutting electricity across the entire island. All of Willie's promotional work is wiped out. Things get worse when Brenda shows up and orders Jimmy to get in the car, with no choice. He is handcuffed and taken to the parking lot, where the mayor and the sheriff are questioning Spark. John finds Spark near the damaged wiring and assumes he caused the blackout. John angrily points his gun at Spark, but Jimmy quickly explains that Spark is the electrician he hired. Meanwhile, Sandy continues collecting samples when she spots the sand shark's fin approaching. Seeing she is in danger, the sheriff rushes to save her, leaving Spark behind trying to fix the cables. Sandy warns John to stay away from the sand, then pulls a gun and fires at the creature, but misses. Still, the gunshots make it retreat, allowing her to escape. Now that the mayor has seen the monster, he decides to close the beach indefinitely. Jimmy protests, but his father says his duty is to protect the people. The problem is, while speaking, he is standing too close to the sand, giving the shark an opening. It launches upward and swallows him in a single leap. Jimmy and the others are stunned, but there is no time to grieve, because the monster is still out there. The group quickly realizes the shark is heading toward the beach, where Spark is trying to reconnect the power lines. John and Sandy fire their guns, but the creature moves too fast across the sand, closing in on its prey. Jimmy shouts for Spark to run, but he is listening to music through headphones and hears nothing. Finally, Spark reconnects the cables, restoring power to the island. But at that moment, the shark attacks, and Spark becomes the next victim. However, a powerful surge from the cable triggers a huge explosion, blowing the creature apart. With the sand shark destroyed, a few days pass and Jimmy decides to continue the festival to honor his father. Not long after, Brenda comes to check on him. Though still wounded emotionally, she still cares for Jimmy and wishes him luck with his plans. However, Jimmy is so focused on the festival that he barely notices the young officer's concern and heads back to City Hall. Later, at Dr. Power's laboratory, she analyzes the remains of the sand shark when the sheriff arrives to check in. Unfortunately, despite its size, she discovers it was only a baby shark, just a few months old. This means somewhere on the island, its mother must be searching for it, and a new wave of attacks is coming. Hearing this, the sheriff worries that an even worse disaster is approaching, since the mother shark will have plenty of prey at the festival. So the two go to City Hall and tell Jimmy what they discovered. But Jimmy refuses to cancel the event, based only on speculation. With insufficient evidence, the sheriff is forced to allow the festival to proceed, but warns that he will monitor everything closely. Everything is ready. At last, the festival begins, with crowds of young people flooding in. A large stage is set up on the beach, while Jimmy performs. Far away on a hilltop, the sheriff and Dr. Powers are watching. Brenda is also keeping watch, but just as Jimmy leaves the stage for his car, she follows him. At that moment, Jimmy runs into Amanda, who is thrilled with his performance at the festival. She is so excited that she suddenly kisses him and asks for a romantic moment right there. Unfortunately, Brenda arrives at that exact moment. Still having feelings for Jimmy, Brenda storms off and hurt. Jimmy tries to explain, but fails, and Amanda mocks the young officer, which infuriates Jimmy. He fires her on the spot and orders her to leave. Before Amanda can react, another sand shark attacks her. Jimmy screams in horror and tries to save Amanda, but the creature tears her apart, leaving only her head. Traumatized, Jimmy freezes as Aaron and Willie appear. He pretends nothing happened. Intern Aaron wants to take a group photo, but when she points the camera toward them, she sees Amanda's remains on the ground. Panicking, she asks what happened. Jimmy admits that another shark attacked Amanda. Willie suggests stopping the festival immediately, because everyone is in danger. 30100 13 59 566. Surprisingly, Aaron agrees, since stopping now would cause massive losses. Willie is angered by that reasoning and tells Aaron to stay out of business, since she is only an intern. The young woman instantly fires back by smashing a glass bottle over Willie's head, knocking him unconscious. She then tells Jimmy that she will take control of the party, but in return, she demands a promotion to become his business partner in the operation. Jimmy agrees and returns to the festival, while Aaron deals with Willie. She drags him into a car, but at that moment, another sand shark appears and attacks her. Aaron wastes no time and throws Willie toward the shark, which devours him without mercy. That gives her enough time to run into the car and hide. The shark moves on in search of new prey. Back at the party, two young men are sculpting sand figures, including one that looks just like a shark. Suddenly, two girls approach them, having heard they sell hallucinogens, and wanting to spice up the party. The two guys agree to the deal, but demand the girl take off her shirt. She refuses, but they promise not to look and tell her to do it. In front of the sand shark sculpture, despite the strange request, she agrees. But just as she kneels down, a real shark erupts from the sand and devours her. The entire area is stained red with blood, and in an instant, the fun turns into a nightmare. Nearby, the sheriff witnesses everything and immediately orders the beach evacuated. Terrified youths scatter in panic. As the predator continues attacking, Brenda rushes onto the stage and grabs the microphone, shouting for everyone to leave the area immediately. Chaos erupts. Jimmy is drinking to drown his sorrows. When he sees the party turn into disaster, he tries to calm the crowd. But Brenda tells him it is too late and they must leave now, because there are not one but 3 sand sharks. They flee the beach together. Brenda fires at the creatures, but Jimmy pulls her away, saying it is useless. Tragedy strikes when a shark lunges out and bites someone in half. Brenda is horrified by the sight. Jimmy drags her off the sand and tries to save her, but it is hopeless. Before dying, he confesses that he has always loved her. With her final breath, Brenda calls him an idiot. The chaos continues. Dr. Powers fills a special solution into spray bottles to lure the sharks away from the crowd. The sheriff helps her escape. The two climb onto some rocks, but are soon surrounded by the sharks. He radios Brenda for help, but Jimmy answers instead. He admits everything is his fault, because he knew there were more sharks, but hid it to avoid ruining the festival. In pain and fury, the sheriff says he will deal with Jimmy later, but right now he needs his help. John says he and Sandy are surrounded by sharks, and only Jimmy can save them. Jimmy agrees, but when he reaches the pier, he sees young people hiding there. As several sharks close in, Jimmy informs the sheriff, and John asks him to evacuate everyone. Using Brenda's vehicle, Jimmy gets them to safety. Afterward, he encounters Angus holding a gun. The old man says he still wants to hunt the sharks. They head to the police station for backup, and reunite with the sheriff and Dr. Powers, who have just escaped the swarm. Angus explains that to kill the monsters, they must trap them all at once. He leads them to a small outpost in a desert valley surrounded by mountains. His plan is to superheat the sand until it vitrifies, trapping every shark beneath it. Though extremely dangerous, everyone agrees. Now, they must lure the sharks and heat the sand. Dr. Powers suggests using sound waves, since sharks are sensitive and drawn to noise. Sound. They haul large speakers and line them up from the beach to the field. The next step is heating the sand. Jimmy remembers he brought a large supply of concentrated napalm. Once everything is ready, they spread napalm across the field and turn on the speakers. The group hides in the outpost while Jimmy plays music. The sound echoes across the area, and just as Dr. Powers predicted, the sharks are drawn toward the noise. But the speakers suddenly shut down, cutting off the sound. The sharks turn away. The sheriff decides to run out and fix them, but Jimmy volunteers instead, trying to redeem himself. He sprints toward the speakers, dodging shark fins bursting from the sand. Luckily, Jimmy reaches them, but realizes they cannot be repaired because a cable has been severed. Still, Jimmy starts singing loudly to lure the sharks back onto the napalm field. The plan works, and in a final heroic act, Jimmy lies down in the middle of the sand, using himself as bait to draw all the sharks in. Angus immediately fires his flamethrower at the napalm, heating the ground until it crystallizes, trapping the sharks beneath the sand. At last, the monsters are destroyed. But before they can celebrate, a massive fin appears beyond the mountains. The mother shark erupts from the ground and swallows Angus. John and Sandy are forced to flee into the outpost. 45100. However, the massive creature smashes its way inside and tries to devour them. John escapes through a window, and Sandy quickly follows. Before leaving, Sandy throws the flamethrower's fuel tank into its mouth, then dives out. They run for their lives, and just then the shark bites the fuel tank, triggering a massive explosion that blows it apart. At last, John and Sandy have killed the mother shark, and the island is safe again. Hours later, on the beach, Erin steps out of a trailer and finds no one around. Suddenly, she gets a phone call on Jimmy's phone from a businessman who wants to throw a beach party. Erin seizes the opportunity and says she will handle the entire event. But before she can finalize the deal, another sand shark suddenly appears and swallows her whole, showing that the threat on the island is far from over.